Welcome everyone. Today I will show you how I made these miniature milk cans. First I'd like to show you something new I learned. My new paper roller that I have from Amazon can hold up to 5 sheets of paper at one time. Of course that's copy paper, so if you use paper bags or something it may be less sheets. It just depends upon the thickness of the paper. If you do happen to roll several sheets of paper at one time, I find it helpful to still roll one single sheet around the outside so that you will only have one seam. I have noticed when I roll multiple layers of paper at the same time that it can be a little bit tricky to apply the glue, so don't let go of it till you're sure that you have all your layers glued down, or otherwise it will all unroll on you. For this milk can, I used 5 sheets rolled at one time, and then I glued 2 together and rolled them around the outside. This part is completely optional, but I don't know if you've noticed by now, but I love sanding, so I sanded the bottom and the top. I applied glue to one end and let it dry. For variety, I made several different sizes. Using an 1/8 inch wide strip of paper, I'm rolling up 5 at once to save on time to create the dome on top of the milk can. Make sure to keep it tight. I roll it up as wide as the milk can base, so here I'm checking that size. Then I use my fingers or whatever works for you to create the little dome of the milk can. I apply glue to the unglued end of the milk can and the inside of the dome, and I glue those two together. Then I apply glue to the outside of the dome. I apply a thin layer of gesso over the complete milk can at this point. I also forgot to film it, I'm sorry. Sanding is optional of course, but to me it's very therapeutic. I'm sanding the top a little bit, but don't get carried away and make it unlevel. Next I'm gluing some 1/8 inch strips to the bottom edge of the can and the top before the dome. I just use cardstock, but I would imagine that poster board would work as well, but I don't know about cereal box. I took some wire, probably like 18 gauge, and wrapped it around the end of my paintbrush, and then I used my husband's needle nose pliers. I guess that's what they are, and I bent the wire into that shape. Although for health reasons I shouldn't use super glue, I did use super glue here because it was metal and I didn't know how strong the Elmer's glue would be. I rolled up an 1/8 inch wide strip of paper to the diameter that I wanted my neck to be on my milk can. I made sure to match up my seams. I cut out a few circles, glued them together, and glued them on the top for the lid to my milk can. I did sand the edge of my milk can lid, but that's totally optional. And here it is so far. I painted gesso on the neck of the can and the lid. I base coated it in black and then in the shade of gray that I wanted. You can use dark or lighter shades of gray. Next I took some metallic silver paint and I'm just kind of lightly, very lightly have some on my brush and dabbing it on to make it look galvanized. This part's totally optional, but I took some brown and black chalk pastel and brushed it on here and there. Then your milk can is complete. The rest of the video I'm going to show you some options to make some variations to your milk can. If you would like your milk can to be open and no cap to like put flowers or something in, when you form your dome, push a little bit from the back side to get a little bit of paper to come up through the center. This is before you've glued it. And gently pull it out cut it off, and then glue that piece back in. And then make sure to glue the inside of the dome and the outside of the dome really well before you glue it to the top of your milk can. For the milk can neck, you make it whatever height you want it to be, and you do the same thing, pull out the center. Then you glue it on. Make sure you always glue all of your edges too to hold the shape. If you put flowers or something in it, you would have to cut the stems shorter, of course, but it will look like they were longer. Here I'm just showing you how that might look. For this option, I took some crochet thread and I applied glue and let it dry, and once it was dry, I wrapped it around the bottom edge of the can and the top edge of the can. For this option, I was trying to figure out how to make the galvanized metal look kind of corrugated. Unfortunately, I donated my paper scorer a long time ago when I gave up scrapbooking, so I drew out some lines on the back of a piece of scrapbook paper, and then I glued popsicle sticks to a piece of cardstock, but I left a gap, and then I just matched my lines up, and I used my ball stylus or something blunt to score my lines. I made a large piece of it so that I could just cut away what I needed for each can. On this one, I decided to cover the whole can with the corrugated metal. On this can, I decided to use the 1/8" strips on the top and bottom like the very first can in the very beginning of the video. But you could always leave them off, it looks fine, or put the crochet thread around the top and bottom. On this one here, I glued the thread to the top of the bottom band and the bottom of the top band. This next one, I tried cutting out a strip of the corrugated metal, and I glued it to the bottom, kind of like I did the bands, and then I glued a piece to the top. If you don't want to bend wire for the handles, you could take a skinny strip of cardstock, spray a little water on it to get it a little bit damp, and pinch it in the center, and let that dry, and then paint it with wood glue, and once that's dry, then you can bend it into a handle shape and glue it onto your milk can. You can also cut a piece of corrugated metal to go around the neck before you glue it on. I've noticed it's easier to glue on when it's still on the quilling tool. Another option after you paint your milk can, you can take some different shades of brown and black and sponge it on to give it that rust look. I think these milk cans would work out great too in a farmhouse. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.